Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Steve Chee, and I want to look at this question of, is your body pushing back against caretaking of others? So before I answer this question, I'd like to give you a quick disclaimer. Please get medical advice from your physicians, your mental health professionals. It's really tailored to your unique situation. So to answer the question, I want to talk about some research on rheumatoid arthritis and internal family systems. So rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disorder where the immune system is attacking the joints of the body. Internal family systems is a psychotherapeutic modality that really helps people to resolve inner conflict. So, research on this found conflict between three main parts, and I'm going to share my screen to help illustrate this. Okay, so to help illustrate this, I'm also going to use a case from my own clinical experience. I'm going to call her Julie, just because I think it may make this kind of easier to understand. So Julie has a caretaking part. Okay, really, in conversation with her, this started really early in her childhood. In her family, she had a lot of experiences of conditional love, and she had brothers who could really do no wrong. And she learned really early on that she needed anything and she needed love, like she needed to take care of somebody else. So, kind of regardless of how she was feeling, if she was sad or scared or lonely, she learned that she had to put herself second and she needed to take care of somebody else. And on top of it, she's smart, she's super capable. As she gets older, this role gets reinforced, gets celebrated. She's really it provides a type of security and a role for her in her family. And the other thing that happens too is, if she's in an environment where she doesn't feel safe really expressing what's going on for her as a child, then this also becomes a way of protecting her from having to feel any of this potential, any emotional pain um, that may be going on inside by focusing outward on others, right? So this makes so much sense, right? Like why this part would come about. And this is a really, really common coping mechanism, and really why, um, and it's really celebrated, really in our society and in many cultures. So she's not exactly sure when it started, but as an adult, and really around times when she started to really extend herself in caretaking of others, you know, like a job promotion when she started taking more responsibility, and there was, she really wanted to help her husband's career, so she started to take on some big projects for that. It was really around these times that she started to develop physical symptoms. And what we have found is that it's actually there is another part that is distracting by using the body to cause pain, fatigue, or other symptoms. It's actually trying to sabotage the caretaking part. This serves a really important role, right? So, this part is actually protecting the person by slowing the person down. It actually gives them a chance to take a break, gives them permission to take care of themselves. And because it's a physical symptom, it can also distract from having to really feel or look at any emotional pain because we're really just looking at that this is physical pain. And again, doesn't this also really make a lot of sense why this would come about? If you're growing up in a family where you don't really talk about how you're feeling and you're encouraged to take care of others, how else are you going to find a way to balance out your inner system? I actually really think it's quite brilliant, a brilliant way of coping given the circumstance. So, what we find is that this part that's distracting to the symptoms, like it's really afraid that this caretaking part is just going to keep taking over. And it doesn't really trust that it's going to get taken care of, right? This makes so much sense because so many times the caretaking part has extended beyond, like, looked, not really taken themselves into consideration. And so, and again, as I just mentioned earlier, because it's seen as physical, it can also help protect them from having to look at any uncomfortable feelings or feel vulnerable that this younger part may have experienced, right? So like any good conflict, right? There's multiple sides. This caretaking part is also in conflict. And a part of her, this part of her is also really afraid of the symptoms, right? And it's afraid that this other part is actually going to make the situation worse by trying to stop it from doing its caretaking job, which is super important because that's how this part finds meaning and love. So this caretaking part, it doubles down and it pushes harder. And then she doesn't trust her body, right? Which then makes this part, that just makes this part want to just not feel safe even more. And that actually amplifies its symptoms because it's not feeling connected. And because this part doesn't also want to feel vulnerable, that also, right, is in conflict with this part. So really all these parts have their own points of view. And this, and so now we've got this younger part, right? The younger part with its unresolved issues from childhood can get activated and triggered by life circumstances. So, stuff happens, like a pandemic, for example, right? That'll trigger some fear. Um, and what'll happen is it'll trigger old coping mechanisms, right? So if one doesn't feel safe to talk about that, the caretaking part is going to get activated, or this other part that's trying to that actually uses physical symptoms as a way of distracting. So as you can see, this dynamic can get fueled over and over and over again. And doesn't it make so much sense why people can feel so stuck and so just in conflict around themselves and not really knowing what they can do about it? So what's great, to know is that the research on this has found that if you resolve these inner conflicts, so not only did the physical symptoms improve, the joint pain, the mood and improved, increased self-compassion, and that was present a year after the study. And after I spoke with Dick Schwartz, who's the founder, creator of IFS, and there was even a few cases of complete remission. So this is amazing, right? This is actual organic disease, and it really speaks to the power of what happens if we explore this dynamic between consciousness, health, and healing. So I see this dynamic right here really commonly in my practice, which is focused on pain and stress related conditions. And happens regardless of whether or not someone has an autoimmune disorder. And really the difference that I see is the depth of that dynamic, like how ingrained, how intense are those dynamics? And if it's just more ingrained or more intense, that it can show up more as an autoimmune disorder. Um, so I hope this helps um, give you some food for thought and helps you to potentially look at what's going on inside of you, and maybe there are parts of you who are actually communicating in this way, and that this can hopefully help you to create a more healthy relationship with your parts inside. Hope you find this useful. Thank you.